So there's a lot to dig into because the US government is spending a lot of your money on this stuff. Your money being if you're a taxpayer in the United States, that is. Um, so I bring this up not because there's anything particularly. I bring all this up not because there's anything immediately relevant out of this, because this is, of course, all just recently brand new in here and launched. So I suggest keeping an eye on this stuff, and I certainly will be doing that and watching out for some of these things that come under this particular vision. Because, it does. Oh, there's the peer plans. I covered this a while ago. The peer plans are basically requiring that you do DEI stuff if you want to get funded for research, which is ideological litmus tests on your grants before you get funded, which I find revolting. Okay. I wasn't expecting to be talking about this, but it kind of just dropped in my lap this morning. Or yesterday morning, as you all are watching this on the next day. But this came about, and it's an observation here. So yesterday, White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, government office in the White House, had a summit on advancing STEM national vision for STEM equity and excellence. Oh boy. And so newsworthy because it just happened, kind of thing. And most definitely is. Hang on a second. Hello. There we go. Sorry, had to do an audio adjustment for a moment. But is most definitely newsworthy. Most definitely will, unfortunately, I think probably not necessarily have some great influence on science in the United States, but we shall see. We shall see. And, well, never mind. But it was this whole thing on Monday, December 12th at this summit. It was quite a bit long. It was quite long. It was actually live streamed on the White House YouTube channel. And I will make a point to go find that, include that in the description for you, because of course I encourage you to go watch it. As long and boring, and it amounted to a whole bunch of buzzwords. Buzzwords and word salad with very little data. You know what I mean? For being about science and evidence and supposedly evidence-based, there wasn't a whole crap ton of data in that summit to put towards it, which perhaps is by design. But there's a few things I want to go over from this. There's a lot with it. I'm still reviewing some of it, and I may revisit this for SciChat Saturday, which is this coming Saturday. And I may not. I haven't quite decided yet, so we shall see. Today being yesterday, Monday, December 12th, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP, is announcing new actions to transform the American science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine ecosystem, STEM, with two M's, by dramatically expanding access and opportunities and bolstering America's global competitiveness. The new action... Yeah. You say that, but how, right? The new actions meet President Biden's day one call to advance equity for people who have been historically underserved, marginalized, or adversely affected by poverty and inequality. Yeah. The American STEM ecosystem shuts out and diverts away too many talented individuals, closing off opportunities for discovery and innovation, and limiting our national potential. Now, if you had stopped there, that actually would have been a good thing, because I don't disagree that there's some instances where you actually have people who are turned away from STEM that might actually be really good. It's not for the same reasons, though. Not for the same reasons. People of color, rural communities, women, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ plus people have long navigated the STEM field at a structural disadvantage. Would love a citation. At the first ever White House Summit on STEM Equity and Excellence, OSTP is putting forward a national vision for transforming the American science, technology, engineering, and mathematics and medicine ecosystem. The summit will bring together people across STEM, including from government and businesses, civic education, nonprofit, community-based, and philanthropic organizations, Committed to working collaboratively to build more equitable and excellent science and technology ecosystem, a more equitable, rather, and will feature remarks from Dr. Arati Prabhakar. Apologies if I can't pronounce your name right. Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Brian Deese, Director of the National Economic Council. Wait. Director of the National Economic Council Director. Okay, seriously, White House people? Who the hell didn't proofread? Director of the National Economic Council Director. You mean Director of the National Economic Council is what you meant. Get a proofreader, folks. John Podesta, Senior Advisor to the President for Clean Energy Innovation and Implementation, and Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, Chair of the U.S. House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Now, admittedly, I couldn't get to watch all of the actual summit earlier. It was live streamed on YouTube, as I said, but I had a lot going on, so I couldn't quite watch all of it today. I'm actually going to come back and look at it. I don't remember seeing Kamala Harris in the summit, though. Alrighty. Let me go down here. Drawing on more than a year of nationwide engagement with students and teachers, workers in science, and technology sectors, researchers, innovators, and entrepreneurs, education and university leaders. Again, you need some proofreading, because this is one hell of a run-on sentence. Education and university leaders, grassroots organizers, and community scientists. What the heck is a community scientist? Business leaders, state and federal STEM policymakers, and others, the National Vision Centers on 5 action areas for coordinated multi-sector action. In tandem, each of these 5 actions will expand opportunities across the STEM ecosystem for people and communities historically excluded from these sectors, from elementary and higher education, and those seeking training and employment, to funding, research, and development. Now, for those of you concerned and worried, I have said very many times, hello, little one, I have a kitty nearby. I have said very many times I'm not a big fan of putting DEI statements into applications and what have you, because it's an ideological litmus test. And I sure as heck hope this doesn't lead to more of that here. So, hi, Luna. So let's see. Here's their 5 pillars, which I did hear them talk about this before I had to jump off. First, we must ensure every person has the opportunity to participate in and contribute to science and technology throughout their lifetime. Question: what if you don't want to? What if you don't want to be participating in this stuff? What if it's not a career you really want to go into, but you got to actually experience a STEM class to realize that you don't like it? Because sometimes that does happen. Second, we must invest in the vital STEM teacher pipeline. Again, I just make a note, proofread, because there should be an extra space right here between the period and the next sentence. Jeez. Now, investing in the STEM teacher pipeline. Shortage of STEM teachers. Forgive me if I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to invest in the education system as it currently is. I'm a little bit skeptical of that. Yeah. Particularly when there's a lot of teaching of such things as social emotional learning and what have you, which are not necessarily the most useful things at all, let alone seem to be more for manipulation, at least from what I've read. But I would defer to others on that one. I would send you over to the Reason We Learn for that particular comment. Third, we must bring greater parity to investment in the communities, institutions, and people that have been historically excluded from access to STEM resources. Wait a second, I gotta check something. Greater equivalence. Okay. I was just making sure. I was double checking that I knew what the synonym to that was. Parity is the same thing as equivalence. Usually in the monetary sense. Anyway. Fourth, we have to acknowledge and address the fact that the culture of science has too long tolerated outright abject bias and discrimination, and dismantle it. Prove it. Prove it. Prove it, prove it. I don't take actions based upon you just saying it. Better damn well prove it. And you better not go with the logical fallacy of there's a disparity, therefore there is discrimination. That is a logical fallacy. Single cause fallacy that's ripped apart in Thomas Sowell's Discrimination and Disparities quite nicely. And that is not a basis on which to make decisions. Equity continues to be too widely... What the hell? I didn't read this all the way through. Equity continues to be too widely regarded as a luxury across academic institutions, companies, and others teaching and applying science, in part because it has been difficult to measure. Usually when I see them talk about equity, it has to do with representation. Which is why I find it curious that they're saying it has been so difficult to measure. And I'd honestly like to know who is saying that equity is regarded as a luxury. It's actually not one I've heard of before. Nevertheless, when you're talking about equity, of course, they give no definitions for any of this. And you might have seen me tweeting about it because one of the organizations that was involved in this was the American Association for the Advancement of Sciences. The AAAS was involved in this summit. And you probably saw me if you were looking at me tweeting about it on Monday, that they never gave any definition for the word equity. Never gave a damn thing of a definition, which that is no way to... How can you even bother to measure it if you can't even give a definition? How about that? How about that for a thing there? This is where I have a problem with this. You're pushing this into STEM fields, which some might argue is you're pushing ideology into STEM. Some might argue that. And yet you can't even define it. And maybe that's, well, some would say that's by design. Put it that way. I don't know. In that case, I'm not going to attribute motive here. Yeah. Fifth, we must close the STEM information gap by generating better and more comprehensive data, developing shared indicators, and committing to greater transparency so we can hold science and society accountable. You're holding science, this thing, accountable. And by that you mean the professional disciplines, not the science itself, the process by which we get at the truth on different things. And at the last one I actually don't have a terrible problem with, because right now it is actually a pretty big mess to try and access any data. So one of the things that's been for a while now is that if you are doing research on public dollars, funded by any of the public agencies, you must make your data available publicly somewhere. One of the reasons it's such a pain in the butt to access is those somewheres are quite often on government sites, which I'm frankly are not the easiest things in the world to work with. Which I can understand that it's not the most accessible thing because of that. To drive real change across these 5 action areas, OSTP is unveiling a historic slate of actions, both from government and from philanthropy, industry, education, research, and community organizations, totaling more than $1.2 billion in work, investments, and opportunities in STEM. Together, these commitments will move our country toward a more equitable STEM ecosystem with the power to dramatically expand the bounds of who contributes to, participates in, and benefits from American science, technology, and innovation. Now, I don't have a problem with the participates in kind of thing. Choosing that you... strike that. So long as you're the one choosing voluntarily to do so. But... one of the things I remember hearing during the summit was someone saying, no, we got to do the science of belonging. You got to really look at the science of belonging, which I think I'm going to look that up for tomorrow. For the video on Wednesday, rather. The science of belonging. Kind of thing. Here's the thing. When you say you belong somewhere, think about this. Do you really belong in everything? Do you really belong in every career? It's one of the things with inclusion. We want to make sure everybody belongs everywhere. It's a thing with the inclusion, equity, diversity thing now adding belonging to it. I want to make sure you belong everywhere. Why? And I mean this in the sense that, of course, you don't shove people out. That's not what I'm saying. I mean this in the sense of, why should I feel like I belong in a STEM career, perhaps, Not speaking for me personally, just speaking hypothetically. Um, if I, why should I feel like I belong in a STEM career or in STEM if I really don't like working in STEM, or I really don't like working in engineering or mathematics or medicine or any of the sciences? Why should I feel like I belong? Why should I feel like I participate or have to participate? Now, putting aside, duty as an individual in a democratic society, yes, you should try to make sure you're well informed on things and all that. That's totally different. But I mean, you don't need to participate in everything. You don't necessarily need to be contributing unless you want to. In which case, yeah, go for it. But I got a problem with just saying we got to make sure everybody belongs. Well, yeah, you can try and make sure everybody belongs, but is everybody going to belong if somebody just feels that they don't like being in STEM or talking about STEM stuff all the time? It's just an honest question in the sense that people are unique individuals, not just members of groups, and we have our distinct likes and dislikes. Presuming you're going to get the same outcome if everybody has all the same opportunities, for each individual is going to have the same outcome if you have the same opportunity, it's wildly misunderstanding of the fact that those individuals are unique. Each individual is unique in their likes, their dislikes, their talent, their abilities, and all the other kinds of little things that go on connected. So, you don't necessarily belong, and I wouldn't necessarily say that science is so easy that everybody should be in STEM. Does that mean that everybody should not contribute to STEM? No. Everybody can contribute to STEM if they want to. In fact, a lot of the greatest scientific findings in history have been from people who are not in those fields at the time. You can look at the history of climate science, actually, as a prime example of that. A lot of the major innovations in climate science came from people who were not climate scientists in their day. They were engineers, they were hydrologists, well, not hydrologists, I don't think, but there were engineers and a whole bunch of other people who were not scientists. We're not climate scientists anyway, at least of the time. So it's just a thought, but this is going on. So you can see here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because this is going to get long. Here, and there's one other place I want to look. So there's a lot of things in here. One of the things that this is linked off of, and you see it right here, this historic slate of actions, is a fact sheet from the Office of Science and Technology Policy, which you think they could make a fact sheet a little shorter. Because I can tell you this is a long, bloody document. Yeah. Today's STEM ecosystem is inequitable by nearly every measure, shutting out and diverting away too many talented individuals, closing off opportunities for discovery and innovation, and limiting our national potential. I mean, I would like to actually see some citations for these things, to be truthful. Let's see. The STEM Opportunity Alliance, a new landmark organization led by the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, is coordinating this effort with over 90 institutional partners across multiple sectors, combining to account for over $1.2 billion in work and investment in initiatives that will advance action across the 5 national STEM Equity and Excellence pillars. More than $4 million has been committed to date to launch SOA. The pledges will serve as a force multiplier for the major strategic actions to expand STEM opportunity, being driven by departments and agencies across the U.S. government. The following highlighted actions are among the commitments announced today. Full list of SOA funders and private commitments is available here. I'm going to open that up in a different tab. Actions to provide holistic, lifelong support for learners, teachers, and workers in communities to participate in and contribute to science and technology. Now, here's a real kick and giggle for you. The National Science Foundation's scholarships in science, technology, engineering, and technology, STEM. I'm trying really hard not to laugh. It's not making really, seriously, guys, you're the White House. Please bloody proofread your own damn documents before you put them online. Please? Oh gosh, please proofread. Please, dear Lord, proofread. Okay. Seeks to increase the number of low-income students who graduate from four-year universities. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm going to have to take my time to go through it, and I may come back with a different video on some of the other things going on. But just to make some points here, there's Fed stuff, yes, and a lot of it from the National Science Foundation more than anybody else. Non-Fed organizations you can actually see in here: Amgen, Vanderbilt, Merck, Howard Hughes Medical Institute, National University, Universal Technical Institute, and the STEM Education Coalition. American Institute of Physics. American Institute of Physics will work with partners to help double the number of African American students earning physics and astronomy bachelor's degrees by 2030. Though it's through its Team Up Together program. Team Up Together. Team Up is led by the American Institute of Physics, the American Association of Physics Teachers, the American Astronomical Society, the American Physical Society, and the Society of Physics. How many physics societies do we have? This initiative provides a scholarship program which offers financial assistance and supportive services and provides funding for physics and astronomy departmental efforts that prioritize and support successful outcomes for African American undergraduates, leading to systemic change. So there's that. Biogen, Simons Foundation, New York Hall of Science, American Association for the Advancement of Science, Dewars Duke Charitable Foundation, Microsoft, Arizona State University, 3M, Jobs for the Future, Sloan Foundation, Morgan State University, Last Mile Education Fund, Olin College of Engineering, Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, Southern Regional Education Board. And then they actually repeat because there's a whole number of things, actions to address the STEM teacher shortage, which disproportionately harms underrepresented students by recruiting, retaining, and respecting teachers. So there's a whole crap ton of stuff in here. Smithsonian Institution, through the Smithsonian Science Education Center, in collaboration with experts from across the country with funding from the National Science Foundation and private grants, released Building Networks and Enhancing Diversity in K-12 STEM teaching workforce, a guidebook to help state and local education agencies to address STEM teacher shortage. Oh God, what a mouthful. Non-feds. So, like I said, this is a long doc. Actions to close the funding gap and support students, researchers, and communities have been historically excluded. Department of Energy is launching the Reaching a New Energy Sciences Workforce Program to enable DOE research at historically underrepresented research. What? Okay. At institutions historically underrepresented in the research office's portfolio. National Science Foundation, EPA, DOE, HUD, National Science Foundation, Small Business Administration, DOD, NEFA, NASA. Oh, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Oh, that's lovely. Oh boy. Novartis, Biogen, STEM Next Opportunity Bureaus. Yeah, there's a lot in here. Oh, here we go. Actions to root out systemic bias, inaccessibility, discrimination, and harassment in the classroom, laboratory, and workplace. Raise the Bar, STEM Excellence for All Students Initiative, Department of Education. So there's a lot to dig into because the U.S. government is spending a lot of your money on this stuff. Your money being if you're a taxpayer in the United States, that is. So I bring this up not because there's anything particularly... I bring all this up not because there's anything immediately relevant out of this, because this is, of course, all just recently brand new in here and launched. So I suggest keeping an eye on this stuff, and I certainly will be doing that, and watching out for some of these things that come under this particular vision. Because, it does... Oh, there's the peer plans. I covered this a while ago. The peer plans are basically requiring that you do DEI stuff if you want to get funded for research, which is ideological ideological litmus tests on your grants before you get funded, which I find revolting. Great. You really want viewpoint diversity. So there's a whole bunch of fun stuff in here. So it's obviously going to take me a while to parse through it all. And here's that Partners for the STEM Opportunity Alliance that you'll find in here. So look for all the AGU. That's a familiar one. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of stuff in here. There's a lot of stuff in here. But founding partners, funding partners, alliance partners. Yep. Anyway, that's it. I think you all should have a good read of all of this if you get the chance, if you're interested in STEM stuff, because obviously this is probably going to have impacts down the road, be it for funding, for teaching, or for research. So I would take a look at it if I were you. And I'm going to dive a little bit more into it, and I may talk a little bit more about this stuff on Side Chat Saturday, which is coming up this coming weekend. Oh, one announcement before I close. This is the last week of content for me for the year. Well, yeah, for the year, probably. Be on break for Christmas and New Year's, and I will come back the week of New Year's, and I will try to record some content for January, even though I'm going to be doing a lot of travel in January. But last week for the year, last bit of content for the year, I will be releasing hopefully a Rogue Journal Club episode next week for y'all to have fun with while I'm away. But last show of the year will be Side Chat Saturday on this coming Saturday. So that's it for now. If you like this video, hit the like button on the way out the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Till next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, everybody.